Hi there, it's Denise Eckert, and I love coming on here and sharing different ideas and techniques to help lower the stress in your life. And today I have Miriam Ortiz Pino, and she's simplicity expert and money breakthrough business coach, entrepreneur, writer, blogger, and creator of the Streamlined Solution. What she does is she works with entrepreneurs and other busy and creative people to connect organization, productivity, and money mindset for the control we all crave and the freedom that we all desire. So, welcome, Miriam.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Now, what inspired you to do this type of work?
That's a good question. There's several versions of that story, but basically, I became fascinated with systems and how you can make things easier for yourself. I'm lazy and a busy person, and so I needed a way to have everything get done while I did the things I was actually interested in. And so I started creating systems to make things easier on myself and then started helping friends and family do the same thing. So when I wanted to start my own business, it became a no-brainer. Oh, I bet people would pay me for this since they already asked me for it.
And what is the connection between mindset and productivity?
It's essential. I believe everything starts with mindset. How you think about things affects your energy, how your brain processes the problem solving of a particular situation. But many people think of productivity as just how do I get more done instead of how do I make things easy for myself to get it done in a timely manner, in a flow, and or when something else interrupts me, how do I still get it done? There's a bit of setting yourself up for success and defining what done looks like for you when you are done.
Now, I know for myself, I'm pretty organized, but what
Mm-hmm.
are the things that you can help people with to make their lives easier?
Yeah, it's actually setting up the structures to support the life you want to live and the work you want to do. I think we spend a lot of time making excuses for why things can't happen instead of setting ourselves up for what can happen, what we want to happen. So there's a lot of it ties back again to the mindset piece. You have to learn to make distinctions between things, prioritize things. Not everything can be at the same level and not everything can happen at the same time. So it has to be a constant, ongoing curating and editing process of what you're working on and the things you need to do that work.
I know for myself that in the past that being busy, being stressed is a recognized sense of success. And basically what you're saying is that if we organize ourselves and work less and have these flows put into place and
Mm-hmm.
have more time for ourselves, that's basically the way to live, right?
Yeah, it turns out when you have everything in alignment, I don't really think there's such a thing as balance. We're always focused on one thing a little bit more than other things, but there is a way of bringing it into alignment. So when you're working on one thing, it also affects other aspects of your life. And I think when we work a lot in the urgent mode or in what's asked of us mode instead of what we've designed for ourselves as our success, it takes that opportunity away. So I tend to think of what do I need? I'm putting my own oxygen mask on first, not doing self care as an afterthought and a thing that doesn't actually take care of me, but just allows me to spend money and sit down and breathe for a minute. What if that was built into every day that you breathed through your work, that you allowed your brain to help you solve the problems and make the creative things you want to do and enjoy, have time to relish your interactions with family and friends and give back to the community? There is a way to do all those things if you live your life in an aligned way, which is not at the expense of things that are important to you. And I find a lot of my clients when we first start working together are all about the urgent. So and so needs this by such and such a date. What did you do to anticipate that? Is there a way you can have that able to just hand it off when they ask? So it's not a I got to find it situation and then I got to create it situation and then oh, now they're calling me back because I'm not done situation. Like we put all these pressures on ourselves. And if we just take a minute and define what we really want out of our lives, we can say yes and no to things based on that, and then begin to set up our structures, our frameworks, our house, our workspace to actually support that instead of rushing around all the time, losing our minds.
The hamster and the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Now, okay, you've been doing this for a while. So what are the sort of the top things that you see people doing that you help them change to make immediate differences in their lives?
Yeah, it's the distinctions. It's understanding the difference between a need and a want, what serves you versus what serves someone else at your expense, and really figuring out what you want in terms of what you want, what will help you feel fulfilled. For some people, it is gift giving and making the perfect loaf of bread. For other people, it is getting out in the community and changing lots of lives. For me, it's do I get through the end of the day with some joy and love in it? Great. But you have to define that and stop looking to other people for the answers for yourself. There's a bit of self respect and self confidence and self acceptance and self reliance, at the same time taking responsibility for how your actions impact everyone else. It's not as complicated as it seems, but I think we over categorize a lot of things, and really it's all the same thing. If we did this, it would take care of all the various aspects.
Okay, so now for someone like myself that works from home, what are some of the tips that you can offer the audience today? Because a lot of us are working from home nowadays.
Yeah, myself included, most of the time. I think it's really important. And one of the things that surprised me most was when I worked for other people, you were there like 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, whatever your situation is. And it would feel like, oh my gosh, I worked all day long. But when you look back, how long did it actually take you to start work in the morning? Like you probably put your stuff down, checked in with some people, made some coffee, right? And then at lunch, you checked in and out. You went to meetings. There was like 10 minutes here and there around meetings that not a whole lot got done. And you go to work for yourself, and all of a sudden you're like, I must work 8 hours. I didn't work 8 hours, so I better keep working. And when you think about it, when I worked in an office, I worked like 3 hours a day. The rest of it was just being there, right? When we work at home, we need to cut ourselves a little bit of a break. It doesn't have to be for 8 hours. It needs to be focused, intentional work for however long that takes you to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. And it's the perfect chance to eliminate all the busy work and that crap work you quit your corporate job at in the first place because you didn't like the way they did things, right? So design your work the way you want to work. And even if you're working from home for someone else, you get to create a little bit of that structure, even if it's just during the 3 hours you're really focused. And then whatever they require on the side of that.
So now you talk about busy work and crap work. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how do we organize our days so that we're not spending a lot of time and energy doing those kind of tasks?
It's again part of that distinction thing. Where is it that there is a requirement that needs to happen? For me, I'm not always in the mood to do outreach and call people and stuff. I'm not a total introvert or afraid of making phone calls, but there are days I'm just not in the mood for that kind of interaction. But if you let that go for too many days in a row, you end up without any clients 3 months from now because you didn't do it. What's the structure of what kind of a minimum effective dose to keep your business running and pay attention to the various aspects of our businesses? I think there's 5 essential business systems. And if you just check in on each one at least once a week, you'll be fine. Some will require more effort than others, but completely ignoring things doesn't really cut it. So having that understanding, Are you filling out forms? Are you being redundant in your work? Like I do it over here and then I record it over here and then I have to check this thing over here and I do this other thing. Is it all the same thing that could be delegated or automated or something that saves you some time? That's what I mean by busy work. And does it have to be done at all? So almost everything I do in my own business, I run it through, does this get me closer to what I want? Is this helping me reach my goal for the quarter, the year, the month? Is this something I do well, or should I find someone else to do this part and just supervise that work? It just requires a lot more strategy. But yeah, that's the best part about working for yourself, right? Is getting to create it how you want. Some people like to do a whole lot of color coding and form filling out. That's not me. But if it's you, it may not be busy work. It may be what gets you into your flow state and your creativity. And that's fine. Just make sure you define it for yourself so you're not working against yourself.
Now, how do you feel about time blocking and putting things into sort of sections of the day or the week where you're, as you
Mhm.
mentioned, that you've got the five essentials of business. So you've got
Yep.
what? Is it that accounting, sales, marketing?
It's, yeah, money, marketing, people, deliverables, and inventory.
Okay, so what would you do? Block off certain days and times that you
I
would do that?
do. I actually theme my days for that. And I love time blocking, but I think a lot of people misunderstand time blocking. I think of it as Legos, and I can recreate it and rearrange it however I need, but I always have that certain set of blocks I need to use up. So if I can't do it this morning or I don't feel good this morning, I can try again this afternoon, or I can move it to tomorrow morning and do one of the things from like inventory. I don't have a lot of inventory. So that business system requires like 10 minutes a week, maybe. So I can maybe squeeze something else into that same time block. It allows you to plug and play. I think a lot of people think of time blocks as I have to have something scheduled in every single block, which equals 1 hour or 1/2 hour of each hour of every day, which is just too intense. But if you
Stressful.
think of it as, oh, I can plug this over here, move this down here because this thing came up and that's great. And so, yeah, but I am a big fan of time blocking. It also helps with the concept of now, next, and after that. Sometimes we don't have a good concept of how long something will take. And
No.
we put it off and we make excuse after excuse and we tie ourselves in knots and spend 12 days rearranging our schedule to fit it in. And then you finally do it and it took 90 seconds. And that was the busy work part, right? The not just doing it. So starting to recognize how long things actually take is a big piece of it. But the other beauty of time blocks is if you finish early and you've set aside a certain amount of time to work on something, you can now either work on something else or catch up on something that's lingering, close an open loop, or you can take it off and you still don't feel guilty because everything else has got a spot. So it's really helpful to think of it in that terms. It could be bonus or it could be stay in your flow and get something else done.
I love that. And now to set ourselves up for something like this, what do you recommend? Do it on a Monday morning or Sunday night? And do you take an overview of what needs to be done in a week? Do you have any tips for us out there?
Yeah. So I am a big fan of you need to work on your relationship with time based on how you experience time, which is not talked about and there's no given. So I used to be the person that did it Sunday nights, served me well for many years. And then all of a sudden, I want my Sundays off. I don't want to even think about work. So I do mine Monday morning. Doesn't really matter. The key is you do it at a consistent time every week so you get in the habit. I always do my things in layers. So I have my theme days. The first layer is make sure you have the right things on the right days. So your
What do you mean by
brain.
layers?
So when I pull from my list of all the things I might do in a given week, I pull over theme days. So I at least label what kind of day each day is. And then I have routines. There's things that have to happen daily, weekly, monthly. I just make sure those get transferred into the appropriate spots on the week. If I do it all now, I don't even put it into my week, but it's technically there because I know it happens because it's a habit now. But when you're starting out, you got to actually write it in the calendar or you'll forget. Then I do the big blocks, like my really important things. I need that block of money time on Mondays where I pay my bills and transfer the monies around to make sure I'm on track. Marketing day, I need about a 90-minute block to make sure all my social media and writing stuff is done for the week. And I have time to make some outreach calls. So that kind of layer of the bigger but ongoing regular routine work. And then I have the bigger chunks of very creative time where it's strategic or I'm out. For me, because I'm an organizer, I have to go out and do shopping or look at products availability and get inspired by various ideas, go to open houses, like whatever might help me in my business, or read articles related to what you're doing, that kind of fuel you might need. And then there's always the free time, the things you want to do. I don't skip that as a layer. It's not if everything else gets done. It is the last layer I plug in a few hours a week so that it all gets taken care of. That's what I mean by layering. When we work in the urgent, some of those other things like doing your dishes and your laundry or knitting or going to the museum for some inspiration, they never get on the calendar. You have to make sure that's one of the layers that gets included every week.
Now, with working with people, what do you see as the biggest time wasters?
Complaining about how little time they have to do the things they need to do. If you really needed to do it, it's not so much that you would do it if it was important enough to you. I think that's kind of a cop out by people that have already established what's important to them. Many people have never sat down and thought about what is actually important to me. Someone said I should do this. Someone else said I should try that. Isn't it expected of me to do this? Oh, I don't have to do that? Never occurred to me I could skip that. And sometimes those things that we do are just shoulds or suggestions from other people that don't work for us, but we beat ourselves up when they don't work out. Instead of thinking, what would work out for me? What is a similar concept that would get me the experience they get from doing it, but works for me? I think that's probably the biggest thing, starting from what other people are doing instead of what am I trying to create.
I have to share this with you because I just finished producing this one episode and it really made me think. She said, we have the shoulds, we should. Is that your voice in your head or is that someone else's voice?
It's
your voice.
Yeah, that voice in my head I call Mildred. I tell Mildred, thanks for thinking of me. I will take it under advisement. And then I run it through my own filters. Is that something I actually want to do? Just because they have a 27-step skincare routine that's going to keep them looking young forever doesn't mean I need to change my 2-step process.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine a 27-step routine of anything. But
yeah. No, I'd get lost in between somewhere there. Now, with checking emails, I think that's one of my biggest things because it does come up on my phone and it's okay, this is important. I've got to deal with this. And the problem is, I find with emails, like when stuff pops up, it's not like you can just throw back an answer. Now you're looking things up. Now you're searching for things. And now it becomes a little mini job. Is there a way that we can organize doing our emails to make our lives not only easier, but gives us our time back?
Yeah, the very first thing you need to do is turn off the notifications so you do not hear or see a pop-up every time an email comes in. I have just the counter on my app badge. So I know if there's new emails, but I don't hear it and it doesn't interrupt whatever else I'm working on. I schedule a time of day, usually fairly close to the beginning of the day, depending on the day. If I'm having a creative day, I do it a little bit later in the day so I can get one chunk of creativity out of me. But most days it's about half an hour after I first get to my desk and get situated. I check email and I do a triage on it. So I prioritize. I just go to my inbox and look at the brand new emails, the unread emails. The first thing I do is I delete anything I know who it's from, but I'm not interested in that day. And I don't read them. I just do it from the who's it from in the subject line. Any I'm not sure of, I don't delete. Second step is I go through and I look for anything that's obvious spam and I junk it. Third step, so that much takes about 2 minutes, maybe, depending on the day. Then I go through what's left, which is the stuff that I need to review or that might be important, and I move it to a folder that is whatever the next step will be. So something I need to take action on, like might need to research to reply or whatever, goes into my action folder. Anything to do with money or bills and that kind of thing goes into my money folder. Anything that is a newsletter or some cool information I might want to check out goes into my to read file. That's it. Anything that's brand new that need, or no, I used to have a couple other categories, but I pretty much just do it in the action folder now because I've gotten to the point where there's very little of anything that's not one of those three categories. To read, I do on the weekends in the morning. I just like peruse and try to keep that as clear as possible. Money happens Money Mondays, and all those action things get done a little bit later in the same day. So my expectation for email is I try to reply within 24 hours to people, not instantly. Of course, there are exceptions. If you work for a team or you're in the middle of a project, you might want to check a few extra times. I do that first triage. I check like usually once again after lunch. And then I do all my replies and answering around 4 in the afternoon, usually, where I just double check if anything urgent came in during the day. And then I sit down and spend about 20 minutes answering as many of those emails as I can. But it will depend on your volume. But I process about 150 emails a day that way.
Yeah.
And it takes me about 20 minutes.
Yeah. And people get answered.
Yeah. And of course, there's a few. This week I've been on jury duty and trying to squeeze in a client that's moving. And so my time has been really wonky and off. So there's probably 2 or 3 kind of newer inquiries about going on someone's podcast or asking about contributing an article or something like that. And they're in there. They're not urgent. They're important, but I don't have to be in 24 hours. It can be in a few days. And I just don't necessarily like people to know that I answer emails at 9 p.m. and I haven't put that delayed response thing activated it yet in my email program. But they can wait a day or two. And if you're consistent, you can keep up with it.
Now, for your emails, do you put a response in there or are you just, okay, you know what? No.
Unless it's a quick one. David Allen suggests anything that takes less than 2 minutes. I don't even do that. If it's a client I want to actually compose a sentence for,
yeah,
it goes in action. If it's my assistant that's, hey, where's the thing? I might go, check this folder. Or, oh yeah, I forgot about it. We've moved it to the 19th or whatever. Like quick response that doesn't have to be a complete sentence.
yeah. Off my plate onto someone else's plate.
Yeah, I mean, there's that whole point. Someone described it as deploy your machines. So anything that's automatic, throw your laundry in and then do something else while it's actually running. That kind of turn on your dishwasher, those things that happen while you're doing something else. And then it was deploy the machines, assign the stuff that is new that someone else can do, and then do your own stuff. That was good.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna make changes, like, because I need to start doing things a little more for myself. It's for myself. It's giving myself time and sanity back, actually.
Yes, definitely.
Now, I understand you have 1 minute email. You've got a newsletter. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I have a free offer. It's the 1 minute mail solution. It's the structure of how you would set up that process we just talked about with email, but it also works for physical paper. So you just mirror the same system. So I've been doing this since before everybody had email. So it started out as the mail kit. Now
Yeah.
it works for email too. And if you sign up for that on my website, you also get the newsletter. So my newsletter usually consists a couple times a month of a blog post or article that I write. Once a month, I send something that's, have you ever considered this and how organizing could help you achieve that? And then once a month, it's usually just kind of things I'm interested in or involved in, or things you might have missed that I've written but play into the theme of the month. So it's every single thing I write, even if it's an offer to buy something, is going to have an actionable tip in it that you can take. Not just coupon or sale. It will actually have a little story and a way to hopefully change your mind about something. I like to get people to think.
That's what I think too. Like, I think streamlining the way you work and the way things, your systems work, it's a constant change. Depends on what you're doing, if you have a new project. So it's always great to have those new ideas. And
Yeah.
even if you don't use it right now, it's okay. I might be able to use that in the future. So something changes in your life. It's, yeah, I'm going to integrate this doing that because Miriam gave me this great idea.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps with discernment too, to hear how I do something or one of my clients does something and then go, oh, would that work for me? Or is that the piece that if I attach it to this other thing I do would make it smoother or easier? I just got back from the National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals conference, and we were talking about KPIs and which KPIs to measure and things. And there were two that it never even occurred to me. And after about a week, I'm like, those actually would give me better information than two of the ones I currently use. And so I went into my KPI tracker and I just changed those out. And the data is going to take a little while to catch up, but I'm like, I think this is going to give me a better actual picture of how I'm looking at stuff and making strategic decisions in my business. So I didn't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I had a structure that I just had to adjust. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. So we're going to be wrapping this up. So what are your final words of wisdom for the audience today?
Create your own life.
Easy, simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Design it yourself.
Sounds good. What I do is actually I make a list of the things I want to get done in the beginning of the week, and then I have the daily sheet because some of the things I do, I really need to be in the mood to do it. For instance, social media and stuff. But yeah, I've redesigned this thing. Now it's down to, okay, I have two main sheets with all the sort of the summary. I don't really need the daily sheets.
I do. Yeah. My ideal way of doing it is weekly planner and then a list of the stuff I need to do. And I just work with the two, and the planner has the actual appointments on it. And then I work off the list with what I feel. But I'm very aware of my themes. I'm very aware of my routines, the stuff I have to do so the other stuff gets done. And then do you know about Ugmonk cards?
No.
They're pretty cool. It's this system where it's just a card with there's today, next, and someday. And it has, I think it's 10 lines. So the most you can do is tell yourself you're going to do 10 things. And then the back is just a grid for whatever you need to do. But for years, I pretty much just use this card. Right now I have a planner because I've been a lot more portable and doing a lot of strategic planning this year for my business. But when that stuff is set again, I'll go back to using just these. But it's nice because if you have to go, you can just toss it in your purse and continue with your day instead of carrying a big fat planner or something. But
absolutely,
it's not quite great when you're doing the strategic planning and you got to map it out.
Thank you so much for your information today. So wherever you're watching or listening, I will have her information. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask your questions. and just giving you a gentle reminder to slow down and enjoy life. And I'll see you in the next episode.